Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Power Hour, Sour Power Hour, you might say, presented by Toxic Waste, hazardously sour candy. Always great to see Toxic Waste. Good little sweet and sour.
You got one of the new barrels.
Yes,
man.
I do.
The
I have
blue, man.
I've got the pretty blue. You've got the classic yellow and green look behind you right there.
I like the toxic infusion, nuclear fusion. Sorry, my bad. Because they take two flavors and jam them together. Dude, these
Best
are so
of both
good.
worlds. Good stuff. Good
So
stuff.
sour too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, yes, Toxic Waste sponsoring the show. Some might say Texas Motor Speedway has become toxic over the past few years since the reconfiguration. Brennan, we just got back from Texas Motor Speedway this past weekend. Solid top 20 run for you in the Xfinity race once again. The Cup Series race saw a dozen cautions, wreck fest towards the end with leaders getting arrow loose and spinning out in traffic, bumps in 3 and 4. Were the bumps in turn 4 as bad in the Xfinity car as the Cup car? I heard some drivers talk about with the way the ride heights work in Cup now, you're just bottoming out if you hit those bumps the wrong way. So like we didn't see them impact the Xfinity cars as much. Was Texas as treacherous for you as it seemed to be for the Cup cars?
I mean, I would say probably driving by yourself, it's not so treacherous in the Xfinity car. Like there, you can feel the bumps over there, but there's no fear of like I'm going to hit the bump and crash. Where the Cup car, we've seen it at some places like Vegas. Vegas is pretty rough in 1 and 2, right? And guys go through there in practice or whatever, and they're on the limiters and they just bottom out and just spin out immediately. I mean, there's nothing you can do, and kind of wild to see it happen in the race to the leader, Josh Berry.
Yeah.
Just coming up on a lap car doesn't. I mean, he's kind of running the groove up. I ran a groove up all day in the Xfinity race, no problems, and then just boom, hits the bump and around he goes. So that is the tricky part about the Cup car. But for me, the cars are just so different. I mean, it's like it's hard to compare what that feels like over there to me. For us, Xfinity car, not a big deal at all. I think the most treacherous thing of the weekend that I think we can all agree on was the grass.
Oh, yeah.
That was
The turf monster, except it's not
I
actually turf. It was
no,
grass.
and people kept hitting it and crashing. My spotter at one point in the race was like, "Man, the grass has been there for 25 years. It's been in the same place the whole time." But just to touch on that a little bit, and before I hear your thoughts on it, it's like when you're in the car, you can't see because we're all on the ground, right? So you literally cannot see the grass. You can't see. So I've been in that position before where it's like, you're trying to peek out to see where you are. The problem is the cars in front of you are already right against the grass. So you peek out and it's like, boom, the grass is right there. It's very, very easy to do and caused crazy big wrecks because of all the rain we had.
Yeah.
The splitters just dug in and it was just wrecked. I mean, they were just wrecking. It was wild.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, Dale Earnhardt Jr. clipped the grass, I remember, in 2014 and went up in flames, had a huge crash in that race. So it's happened at Texas before. It seems to be more prevalent now, I would guess, because of the reconfiguration and how, especially in 1 and 2, it's kind of a fight for the bottom. So everyone's trying to cut that dog leg as close as they can to try and get a run or get positioning on somebody. We even saw in the Cup race on Sunday, I think it was Tyler Reddick. No, Daniel Suarez was to the inside of Tyler Reddick, cutting that dog leg really tight. Reddick didn't know he was down there, also took a shallow line and spun himself out. So like that second dog leg in the front straightaway was like, I can't say it was the action corner because that was truly turn 4, turn 2, the normal sketchy parts of Texas Motor Speedway. But no, it was a good day for you though, Brennan. All things considered, 17th place finish, kept your car mostly clean. Do you enjoy racing? You stole it. Okay. Do you enjoy racing at Texas, or are you kind of like, because some so I talked to Blaney after the Cup race and he bluntly said this place sucks. Like he just left it at that. He said, I hate this track. I mean, yeah.
I think. Yeah, I mean, I think Blaney is not far off. I mean, here's the thing: it's just so sketchy to drive. There's no grip anywhere, but we're going so fast and on the limit, and it just creates a lot of chaos. I mean, the turn 1 being so flat, it's just like, oh my gosh! And then you come off of turn 2, and it's so wide and shaped weird and goofy, and then it falls away from you, and Man, it makes it really just not, it makes it a big challenge. I mean, that's why there's so many crashes. And maybe that's why the fans have enjoyed watching it. I think maybe like the last 2 years, because the first year, obviously, repave, nothing really happens at all. No one can do anything. But the last couple of years, there's been a lot of chaos and a lot of crashes. And so to me, I think that that might be entertaining to some of the fan base.
Every race
But
this weekend went into at least one overtime. I think trucks and
yeah,
Xfinity finished in double OT, which I mean, yeah,
yeah,
it's a
it's
exciting finish,
hey,
I guess.
that's fine for me because my car, we missed it and we were not very fast. We were a 25th place car. I feel like we stole the 17th, although I still am frustrated how the last restart went because I lost spots, which we've already talked about. But there's nothing I do. The 48 ran into the fence off of
Yeah,
two, then
stacked
stayed in
everyone
the
up.
groove, stacked everyone, and runs in the wall again off of four. I'm like, dude, I can't, nowhere for me to go. But um, I mean, I think that part of those it's so sketchy and so dangerous and you're so on edge the whole time that that causes a lot of these wrecks and so it just makes it really difficult to race. So then it makes like for us as drivers, like the racing part of it, not very enjoyable. But from the outside looking in, like as a fan watching the cup race, I'm like, well, this is the most cautions and the most wrecks that has happened all year, maybe. I mean, they went to Talladega and nothing happened.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I think that kind of makes it more interesting for me. But I mean,
it's
yeah, I mean, that would be cool if
definitely.
they changed the track.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they could grind the bumps out of four, but then maybe you lose the character of the track. That could, and then you're back to how it was when they repaved it. Nobody could pass,
Yeah.
and it was barely a groove and a half wide.
Mhm.
Like that's how I would put it. Is the racing at Texas is not great. There's maybe two usable lanes when they when the grip widens out, but it's especially the cup car. It's so easy to aero block. Cars are so sensitive that there's just not a lot of passing up front.
Yeah, you
So
can't do
the
anything.
so the racing isn't great, but because there's that wild card X factor of turn four and turn two being as dicey as they are, you get moments like Josh Berry spinning from the lead or Kyle Busch rallying to third in the closing laps and then binning it into the outside wall. Like you get those moments that make you go, whoa, or
Yeah.
McDowell in the cup race losing all of his momentum and then blocking Joey Logano all the way to like
Yeah.
that was like, whoa, that was a highlight. That was
It was,
exciting. Was
yeah.
it great racing that got us to that point? No, probably not, but at least it was an eventful race. The one thing you can't have is a bad racetrack that also produces no big moments. At least
Yeah.
Texas has given us some big moments over the past couple of years. It's not a good track, but I mean, there was a pretty big crowd on Sunday. The Xfinity crowd on Saturday. I know the weather was beautiful and all that, but that probably helped. But like, the crowd showed up this weekend more than I've seen them
Mhm.
since the pandemic, at least. So, I mean, fans love a good highlight package, and Texas has given them some highlights. Can't deny that.
Listen, I agree with that take 100%. I think that they put on I think there were some big moments in all three series this year at Texas Motor Speedway, which just made it a great race. And, I'm from there. I had a lot of fans there, had a lot of friends and family camping out, having a great time. I've had a lot of success at that track, right? As far as all of the tracks there go, from the dirt track to
You've
the
run
little
the
fifth mile that's not there,
Yeah.
and it's not a legend car track anymore. But the road course, the legend car track on the front stretch,
That's right.
I've won in all of them.
You've run the road course there.
Sure have,
I'm not.
yeah.
I wasn't
So
even sure that actually existed. I've heard of
yeah,
it.
it's there. It's there, man.
Wow.
And
All right.
it's not, it's not the most fun road course, but when you're a kid racing legend cars, it's pretty fun. So,
Oh shoot.
for me, it's kind of cool to go there. I mean, all the fans that came there pulling for me, well, that was cool. I got a lot of messages and a lot of cheers, which is always fun when you walk out at a track and like no one says anything because I'm somewhere where no one even, knows who I am or whatever. That's kind of funny, but like Texas is always a big one. So it's kind of that stuff's fun for me.
That's awesome. Did you do anything fun while you were back in your home state for the weekend?
Well, we had a big campground
Oh,
on the grounds with like three, four motorhomes parked in like a square. We had a bunch of barbecue. My bunch of family members and old friends came, and we had our crew guys on the 44 team over there. We were eating barbecue and I mean everything,
heck
man.
yeah.
Pulled pork, ribs, brisket, all the good stuff. Everyone was having a good time. So I got to hang out. I watched the truck race that night with everybody. We were they had built like their own scaffolding where you could stand up and see
Hmm.
the track, and they were off of turn two, so I was right in the action spot, and I could still see the big screen. So great place to watch a race, and it's just really fun to do with a lot of people that have been supporting me or following my career since I was 7 and 8 years old. So one of my friends brought me a quarter midget tire that I raced with about 20 years ago or more probably. Which really cool. Yeah, it'd have to be more than that. It'd be like 25 years ago or something crazy, that
Wow.
was really cool to have. I don't really have a lot of I have a lot of trophies from when I was a kid. But I don't have like any stuff from the cars or anything like that. So to have a tire that was like, no, man, you raced with this, or that was pretty cool. That was
That's very
gifted to me.
unique.
So yeah, so it was a cool weekend.
That's awesome. That's super duper cool. Yeah, Texas Motor Speedway, home race for me as well. Always a good time. Brennan, we'll be joined in a few moments by Carson Kvapil, Junior Motorsports driver, late model driver, now Xfinity Series racer, rookie in the NASCAR Xfinity Series. We'll get to talk with Carson in a few minutes. But before we get to that, we are roughly a third of the way through the Cup and the Xfinity Series schedule. We're 12 races in on the Xfinity side. I think 11 races in on the Cup side, which is weird to me that there have actually been more Xfinity points races this year than Cup. I don't know how that happened, but okay. I know y'all have a break coming up here over the next couple weeks, so I guess that'll even back out. But I wanted to take this moment to maybe throw some names out there. Who are some drivers or maybe some teams, some organizations that have surprised you thus far in either a good or a negative way? I'll start with this. I think we can have a conversation about this group. Legacy Motor Club. They were the butt of a lot of jokes last year with John Hunter Nemechek and Eric Jones outside of the top 30 in Cup points most of the year, struggling in their first year with Toyota. But this year, it's early, but they seem to have turned a corner. Right now, John Hunter's 23rd in Cup points. That's I think a 12 position improvement over last year, and Eric Jones is 29th. Remember, he was disqualified at Martinsville a few weeks ago. He'd have a few more points to his credit if not for that. And they just finished 5th and 8th at Texas Motor Speedway. Like, legit ran top 10. Eric Jones, I think, had a top 5 car. He had 2 pit road penalties, drove back up to 5th at a track you supposedly can't pass at. So I don't know what you've seen from Legacy Motor Club. I know there's off track news and drama around them trying to acquire a third charter for next season, TBD if that works out. But so far in 2025, on track, I think they've clearly improved. What say you?
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure. I think the biggest thing is just how hot of a start John Hunter had at the start of the year, which is why he's still up so far in the points. But yeah, they've just done a really good job. You got to start these years off hot. You can't get in trouble. You can't have wrecks. You got to finish if you're fighting in that points battle, which the 42 car did that right off the rip. Eric has been showing a lot more speed over the last several weeks. And I think Eric is a good leader and a good driver to have in that group. And of course, some of the people they've got over there this year and guys that have been, they've been building that team up over the last several years. So yeah, I think they're in position to continue to grow and try to put themselves in a position to be more of a contending team on a regular basis. It's tough, man. Cup is just stacked right now. When you
Yeah.
just go through and look at it, it's like even the Spire cars. I mean, we talked about
Mm-hmm.
Hocevar on the pole, Michael McDowell fighting for the win in the closing laps of the race. Like they have been pretty good. I mean, but at the same time, you can have, like a Spire car, I think at Vegas, I don't remember who it was, but like run 35th all day. And we're like, oh my gosh, but you're telling me six, whatever weeks later, they're going to sit on the pole. Like it's crazy how tight it is.
It is, yeah.
It's
Especially like in
unbelievable.
that like 10th, like obviously Hendrick usually has some of the fastest cars. Gibbs usually brings fast. Like the Hendrick, Gibbs, Penske's obviously are consistently fast, but that gap from like 10th to 30th is
Crazy.
like it's like so tight. It's the tightest it's ever been on the Cup Series side. So it's cool though that Legacy Motor Club has been one of those teams that clearly has made some positive strides, it seems, from last year to this year. Another name I want to throw out there, this one in a not so positive way, is Brad Keselowski. Man, coming into Texas weekend, he had some really good numbers here in the next gen car, and then was never seen on Sunday until he spun out on his own and crashed towards the end. Brad Keselowski is a Cup Series champion, a veteran of the sport, but he is 32nd in points right now with 0 top 10 finishes. I mean, what's going on?
Yeah.
How do you dig yourself out of a hole like that? Like, how difficult is it when you're going through a slump like that?
Well, I think Brad just has to keep his head down and they got to focus on stage points and finishing races. You cannot continue to crash and continue to get no points, but they also are a team that is capable of winning. Here's my thing with Brad Keselowski, though, is a different crew chief this year. His crew chief, Matt McCall, goes over to Spire. So it's a whole new thing working. And Matt McCall, I think, is probably one of the best crew chiefs. in the Cup Series right
He
now. I
was
mean, kind of
in
flies under the radar a little bit, but I think he's incredibly talented.
yeah.
So Brad knew they just have not had the speed that he had. Like last year, I was like, okay, they're figuring it out. Well, now you've got it figured out, and your guy leaves. Man, you gotta get right back into it, right? That's a difficult challenge that six team's facing.
I'm sure you don't know this for a fact, but I know I've heard that Spire Motorsports. I mean, we saw some of the off-season signings from making the
Mhm.
Justin Haley LaJoy trade, going and getting Rodney Childers, who's obviously now left. Matt McCall, McDowell, they seemed willing to spend the money to commit to
Mhm.
some talented veterans. Do you get the impression it was probably more of a Matt McCall got a really good deal, and or do you think
Yeah.
Keselowski wanted to make a change? Like you're
No,
saying,
I,
he was good last year. He had a bunch of second place finishes in addition to that win at Darlington.
Yeah, I think if you have Matt McCall, you don't want to get rid of Matt McCall. So I
Mm,
think that was probably a business decision on Matt's part, and also getting to work with another really good driver and organization
sure.
like you just talked about that everyone's been kind of aware of spending lots of money to build that program up, and I think it's helped. I mean, I think they're a legitimate um, team now that's competitive every single week. Where, over the several years past, a couple years ago, we probably would not have
Mm-mm.
agreed with that. We probably wouldn't say like, oh yeah, if you go to Spire, that's a good place to be, right? I think you can say that that's pretty kind of a destination that a lot of drivers would like that opportunity there. So that's kind of changed how people have looked at it. So obviously Matt making a change to try to continue to build his career and continue to go farther up the ladder, which, Spire's close to Hendrick. I don't know. Maybe it's
Sure.
kind of a pipeline in that system.
Good point.
So who knows what could happen? But no, I think Brad and RFK is probably, kind of sad to lose somebody like that. Granted, it's pro sports. They got to
Yeah.
move on. You got to find someone else to do the job. But to me, that's what I think is the difference maker over there. Matt McCall's left. 16 really hasn't shown as much speed as they have had over the last year.
Yeah, I mean, and not to throw anyone under the bus here, Jeremy Bullins is now the crew chief with Keselowski. They worked together at Penske for a couple of years, and in the 2020 season, I believe they won 4 races together. So they had some success now that was at Penske. More recently, Jeremy Bullins was with the Wood brothers and Harrison Burton, and that pairing obviously
It's a different car, man.
didn't blow anyone away. Yeah, so Keselowski struggling. Hopefully he can turn it around. Good guy to root for, big name. Want to see him up front contending, especially later in his career. You don't really know how many more years he might have left.
Yeah.
Another positive name. Let's shift to the Xfinity Series for a moment. Sam Mayer. He still makes some mistakes that kind of frustrates me. Like there's a couple instances at Martinsville. I still think that the restart at Homestead was, he kind of jacked up the inside lane. There's still moments where it's like, okay, he's young, he's still learning, but the speed this year, he's already got 6 top 5s on the season. Last year he had 8 the whole year with Junior Motorsports. So we weren't sure what Haas factory team was going to be this year with some of the leadership changes, but the 41 car on Xfinity is pretty fast. What do you think, seeing him every weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of it is Sam's maturity is starting to show him finish more of these races. I know there have been some situations where he's wrecked and been in some trouble this year, but that's because he's aggressive. But I think he's just had decent speed and been able to put himself in position to capitalize more than what he was able to do in the one car over the previous years. So. We'll see. I haven't seen like crazy, crazy speed out of the 41 or the double zero, to be fair. Like winning, like going to go up there and dominate the race speed, right? I haven't seen that yet, but I have seen them close and in contention, like you said, multiple top 5s already. So they're close, and you just have to see, right? It's new people. They're running 2 Xfinity cars, the one Cup car now. How does that affect the program with not having all that other Cup data information, whatever you want to say? It just seems like the teams that are running more Cup cars seem to have really good Xfinity cars as well. So now it's kind of like flipped, where they have more Xfinity cars than Cup cars. Like that
Yeah.
dynamic is a little strange to me, but yeah, they've been pretty fast, yeah, for sure. But
He
I don't know, man. I race with the 41 and the double zero sometimes too, and I've had a really good month, obviously, or month and a half, whatever you want to call it. So I don't I don't know, right? Like
Well,
there's
the
flashes
the
of
double
speed and
zero
flashes
is,
of no.
to your point, I feel like the double zero has lagged further behind. Some of that is they've been getting wrecked. They've been in some bad incidents. Some of them not their own doing, but they aren't. Like, it does seem to be two different speeds right now. Like why I wanted to mention Sam Mayer was Texas. Like he got damaged on one of those wacky restarts and still worked his way back up into the top 5 and had a shot at the win. Was I think restarting on the front row with Kyle Larson there towards the end, and didn't get it done, unfortunately. But yeah, it is still, it's not the most consistent, but it's more consistent than we've seen from Sam Mayer in the past, which is why I wrote that down as one of my sort of standout surprises thus far. We'll wrap up with this, and then we'll bring Carson Kvapil in here. We could argue Carson Kvapil's been a surprise, 6th in points as a rookie. But I want to mention one more negative surprise. Another rookie contender, William Sawalich, had a lot of success in ARCA, won a lot of races. I know ARCA not super competitive these days. There's only a few typically winning cars in the field on a weekly basis, but he won a lot of races he was supposed to win. Now he's in the Xfinity Series with Joe Gibbs Racing in that 18 car, and he only has 2 top 10 finishes thus far, 25th in points. If you had to give any advice to young William Sawalich, Brennan, as an Xfinity Series rookie, a teenager still, how could he possibly turn this season around?
Well, I don't want to tell him too much because he's behind me in points, so he can just stay back there.
All right, never mind. That was a bad. That's a great point.
But I mean, honestly, he just got to finish races and run all the laps and continue to get better. It's really just an experience thing. The jump from ARCA to Xfinity is huge, and I've done it. It's a massive, massive jump. It's not like the jump from ARCA to trucks is pretty huge, and then the truck to Xfinity jump maybe even a little bit bigger. And then the jump from Xfinity to Cup is like I couldn't even explain that to you on how it's insane. So it's no comparison at all in any way possible. So it's just a big jump, and he's now racing against guys that have been to these racetracks a bunch and are familiar with this car and know what they need already. There's no practice. And those things are challenging. So you just really need to run all the races, stop crashing, and that's how you're going to get better and learn more laps in the car. Because we don't get 2 hours of practice anymore. You get 25 minutes, and then it's like, good luck.
Your
So
practice
you gotta finish.
your practice is the 2 hour race for then when you go
Right.
back in the fall. Like that's what
Yeah,
it's,
'cause that's what it is.
that's
Yeah,
kind of what it's
you're a rookie.
become. Yeah, I just looked. You are 68 points ahead of William Sawalich right now, so you're not in any imminent danger.
Yeah.
Unless he wins, I guess. Winning you're in
Yeah.
these days could certainly upend everything. But there you go. Just a few drivers that we thought we could mention, talk about, surprising us in good and bad ways. Again, 1/3 of the way through the 2025 season. The time is just flying, Brennan. Time flies when you're having fun, man. Finishing top
Yeah.
5 every other week.
Hey, I've had a great last 6 weeks. I mean, Bristol was tough, but heck, the rest of it's been great. I've got 2 top 5s already this year, and we're still in the fight for the back half of the playoffs. I know it's going to be tough. I need some of those guys to make some mistakes, but we just got to keep doing what we're doing.
Keep the pressure
it's been
on.
a lot of fun.
Yep,
Yeah.
keep the pressure on. With that being said, let's talk with one of the Xfinity Series Rookie of the Year contenders. Carson Kvapil joins us here on Power Hour. Brennan, we are now joined by JR Motorsports Xfinity Series driver Carson Kvapil. Carson, it's great to have you on the show. We just wrapped up Texas Motor Speedway. I know, Brennan, you both are getting into a few-week break here, a little mini summer vacation or spring break, I guess, for the Xfinity Series. Carson, do you have any big plans over the next couple of weeks, or are you just counting down the days till Charlotte?
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot going, I guess you'd say. This weekend, I really don't have nothing planned. I'm sure I'll keep myself busy working in the race shop and whatnot. But next weekend, All-Star Weekend, I'm going to run a late model stock at North Wilkesboro. So going to spend this week and obviously next week kind of just making sure I'm all good to go, crossing all the I's and the T's and stuff. And just going to make sure I'm good with that. But other than that, I'm just going to try to chill out a little bit and kind of treat it as a little bit of a break. But it's hard to when you're a racer.
I looked at it earlier. I didn't realize the Xfinity Series has actually run one more races than the Cup Series so far this year. So you guys have been bang, bang, bang. Have you run the North Wilkesboro late model race before? Because that environment the last couple of years has looked incredible. I've not, unfortunately, been able to go in person, but it's looked like an awesome event.
It is. We were there for the inaugural race back in 2022 before they repaved it. Before they sealed it, actually, the first year before any of the Cup cars or trucks or anything went, we were able to win that with JR Motorsports and their late model, and came back the last few years, 2023, 2024. I think we finished good. I mean, we haven't won, but it's been top threes or top fives since then. So I'm going with a different team. I'm going with Archie St. Hilaire's car out of my dad's shop. So JR Motorsports is going to be pretty busy with Connor and my brother running the Wilkesboro race. So I'm just going to kind of tag along and do it on our own.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, we do know how near and dear North Wilkesboro Speedway is to the boss man, Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s heart. So that's awesome that y'all have had success there. I want to go back to the beginning. Let's start at the beginning of your career, Carson, because this is the first time we've really met and had the chance to talk. I know you grew up in Mooresville, right there, Race City, USA, in the heart of it all. And obviously your father, Travis Kvapil, is a NASCAR Truck Series champion, raced for many, many years. What do you remember about his racing career or being around the sport in your early age?
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, I thought everyone went to the racetrack every weekend, all the other kids, right? I thought that was just normal. So for me, racing's kind of been my life, I guess you could say. As a kid, I tried baseball and football, right? But I was never good at all at it, so never really pursued stuff. And then when I was 10 years old, I don't know why. I don't really know why it took me so long, but I started racing when I was 10, Bandolero cars, and when I was 11, I started running karts at Millbridge, and just progressed through all the ranks through then. I mean, started in Bandoleros, went to karts, and we actually ran karts all the way till 2021 or so. So in that meantime, I'd run some legend car stuff, and then my dad got a late model stock. We ran that a little bit. Then from there, I went super racing in 2018 or so, 2019. Went to the Arkham West Tour up in Wisconsin, Illinois area, and raced for a full season up there. Then we came back down, and my dad got a super late model, and we just started kind of doing it on our own and figuring it all out, and just got better as a driver, and my dad got better working on the race cars, and we worked together on all that stuff. Obviously, just me and him in the shop. We didn't have any guys working on the stuff. So 2021, we won a few Cars Tour super late model races and won the championship at the end of the year. And right at that time, Josh Berry was moving up to full-time Xfinity, and I was able to squeeze in the late model for a few races at the end of 21, and I guess we ran good enough, and crew chief liked us enough to where he wanted us to drive the car. JRM wanted us to drive for 2022, and we did that for 2022. We won the Cars Tour championship that year. I've been with JRM for a while now, honestly. It's only been 4 or so years, right? But it seems like it's been a lot longer than that. And there's been some good runs, like I said, just trying to learn as much as I can, and hopefully we can knock off a win here soon.
Yeah, well, there's a lot there. I want to go back for a moment. I think it's great that your dad was such an instrumental part of your racing career. I know you said at the beginning that you don't know what took you so long to actually drive a race car, but whose idea was it originally? Was it finally you saying, hey, I want to go try this for yourself, or was it something that your family at all pushed you towards?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't think my family pushed me much, honestly. And honestly, it took a while. Not a while, but it took a few months for my dad to really pull the trigger on getting me a Bandolero to run and whatnot. So, I mean, obviously, I'm sure he wanted me to, but at the same time, he was still running full-time Cup cars and whatnot. So he didn't really have the time, or he wasn't really sitting around and kind of just wanting to go race with me, right? So it took a minute, but once we started racing, and right around that time, he kind of pretty much called it on his career, and we just from there he's wide open in the race shop all the time, working on our stuff, and or the last few years he's working with my brother now on the late model stuff. But Yeah, I mean, it's just been it was something that I guess for some reason it finally took me to 9 or 10 years old to where I finally really wanted to go racing, and it didn't take a while, but it took a little bit to get going.
I was to say, I want to ask just, because I was a late model stock guy. I didn't race that many super late models. I ran UARA before, I guess what now the touring series is the Cars Tour. But, what were some of the things that you learned or things that you have taken away from your time racing the late model stocks the last several years that maybe you're sort of still using now as you've started this first full-time year in the Xfinity Series?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of circumstances where the stuff from the late model stocks really been able to transfer over to the Xfinity car. Honestly, though, man, this is about the biggest jump. I don't know about you, Brennan, but I feel like this jump from the late model stock stuff to the Xfinity car is a pretty big jump. At first, I kind of didn't think it was going to be because the chassis design is very similar and whatnot, but just the speed and the aero and the tires that we run in the Xfinity car is it's just so much different than what I'm used to with the late model stock, and that's really the biggest thing I've been adapting to is just the late model stock. The tires are so soft feeling. You can really feel where you're at. You can feel if you're overstepping the tire, and you can tell if you're under driving it. Whereas the Xfinity car, I'm kind of struggling a little bit with the radial tire and how it feels. It's always a brick. So
Yeah, they give us that's what I was going to say. It's like literally racing on a brick. So, like, those of you that are listening, I mean, the tires are so hard. They don't really wear out. They just kind of heat up, and it's really hard to sort of tell where the limit is on the tire and sort of if you're overworking the tire or not. When you run the late model, when I ran it was still Goodyear's. I don't think it's Goodyear anymore, but like you can kind of tell when you're making the tire mad or you
yeah,
can kind of tell where the limit is and sort of be able to manage that. It's really difficult to do
for
in the Xfinity car.
Yeah, Texas, I felt like obviously we rained out practice and qualifying, and I've never been to Texas. So those first 20 laps or so, I was struggling. I didn't know where the limit of the tire was, and I feel like a lot of my driving comes from feeling the tire and basing all my reactions off of what the tire is doing. And I feel like the Xfinity car, when I went to Texas, it was like, man, I don't even know where I'm going. I can't feel the tire, can't tell if I'm under driving, over driving, and I had a struggle there for the first little bit. But there's definitely a lot of things from the late model stock that I can translate over. A lot of the racing stuff. I mean, the late model stocks, you feel some aero stuff now with these bodies, but it's nothing like the Xfinity car. But like I said, the chassis design is very similar, and they kind of react somewhat similar.
That kind of leads me into the next thing that I wanted to ask you is just I know it's your first full-time season in the Xfinity series. What's been sort of the biggest surprise for you so far?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's tough, right? I mean, last year I was able to run a handful of races and kind of go to a Indy, a Dover. Just we kind of went to some really different tracks, right? And we go to these mile and a halfs now, and now I'm running a full time schedule. And some of these tracks I've never seen before, they're pretty tough, right? I mean, like I said, Texas was tough. Las Vegas, I was able to get up to speed pretty good on. It's just man, the surprise to me is the lack of practice we have. It's obviously I felt it last year running part time, but man, it just seems like it's so tough for the teams to really dial in your race car. We only get 20 minutes of practice, and going to Texas or going to Bristol or a track like that for the first time, it's really tough for me being a first time guy to kind of just go out there and go put a top five speed, right? So that's been the biggest struggle or surprise, I guess you'd say. And by the end of the race, I feel like I'm pretty comfortable, but I feel like I'm always a change behind just because I don't know what I need and I don't know what to feel. It takes me till stage two to really get a good solid footing on where I am. And by that time,
It's too late.
the rest of the guys you're racing with are already a step ahead of you. So that's been the biggest thing that's been a surprise is just how much practice we don't have. And coming from the late model background, we can practice for 5 days in a row before the race if we want.
Hmm.
Uh, Getting up to speed and stuff for me is a little slow. I feel like I'm the guy I'm not going to go out there and set quick time first lap out on a track I've never been to. I feel like I get up to speed good, but I'm just not the guy to risk it in practice, right? To figure it all out in 5 laps. So just been having to adjust that and try to get up to speed quicker as a driver and let the crew chief know what I really need.
Yeah, I think you touched on, I mean, I've talked to a lot of rookies. This is my 10th year now. Eric and I were talking before. Charlotte's going to be my 250th NASCAR start. So, but I've never heard a rookie talk about the tires like you have. Um, and of course, I have heard some people talk about the practice, but talking about learning the track and getting up to speed and maybe being a change behind, like the way you think about the race is like that's the thing that's like impressive for me to hear you talk about some of those things. And of course, I know you're good, and I'm a late model stock guy, so I really respect the races that you've won and the things that you've done over there because that's how I came up too. So I kind of pull for those guys. So yeah, man, that was interesting to hear you talk about those things for sure. Because my rookie years and things that I went through, I still had the practice. At least I got 2 hours of practice, right? But I've always thought the same things with the tire and learning these tracks, places I haven't been to before. And it's just you're kind of think about things a similar way that I do. Maybe that's a late model stock background. I don't know, but that was cool.
Yeah, I feel like some of these racetracks we go to, right, and we haven't really went to too many that I raced last year part time, but going to Bristol, like I was able to run a truck there end of 23 and get a feel for it. And I went to Bristol in the Xfinity car, and we qualified. I think we qualified third and finished second to Larson, right? And I felt like if we would have had a caution, or if I would have made quicker work of passing some guys, I probably would have had a shot at them. It's just, man, you come to these tracks and it's just, like I said, I'm a step behind, and I finally come to a track where I've been to before, or at least I know what I need to do as soon as I unload, and we have a really good day, right? So
Yeah.
I'm super excited to come back to some of these tracks for the second time around in the season. Also looking forward to some of the ones I was able to do part-time last year. Just seems like it's way more, I guess, of a fair advantage for me. It's not an advantage, but it's just more fair that I've been there before, and I feel like we can be up to speed right away.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I know you kind of burst onto the national scene, obviously in the Cars Tour, and then when you joined JR Motorsports. You mentioned it earlier, but what were those first conversations like with Dale, with Kelly, with that whole team? Like, how did you first get introduced, and how did that relationship really begin in the first place?
Yeah, so it was a little different. I mean, I honestly, me and my dad, we didn't know Dale at all. Honestly, I mean, my dad knew Dale, right? But he wasn't buddies with him. wasn't one of his right hand guys, right? So I didn't know Dale. My dad really wasn't familiar with Dale too much, but we knew LW and Kelly Miller from the Millbridge racing stuff, the Outlaw Kart racing stuff. I raced karts with Carson Elledge back in the day, and now it's Wyatt that races the karts with me sometimes. So just being at Millbridge with those guys, I think they started way back. Obviously, Jimmy Elledge owns QRC Karts, so he was there when Millbridge started. But from 2014 all the way on to 2021 or so, we had run karts or micros there, and we weren't buddies with them by any means. We knew them. We would say hey in passing by, right? But at that time, Josh Berry, like I said, was moving to Xfinity full time, and they had a group of guys, group drivers that they had their eye on. And honestly, I didn't even know that they had their eye on me. I think my first time I met the crew chief and LW Kelly and Dale about racing their car was mid to end of 21 at Martinsville. We got invited out to come hang out at the Martinsville 300 race, and around that time they were kind of looking to pull the trigger on a guy, and just it was kind of a lucky time, lucky need for them, and it wasn't like they had reached out to us a year prior asking what we're thinking next year. It was one of those things where we met them at the Valley Star 300 race, and then it was less than a week or two later they were going to run Florence in the Cars Tour, and they wanted me to come drive the car, and that was Wednesday of the weekend race. So it wasn't like we were really good friends for a while. It was just kind of a pop-up deal. It was kind of unexpected, to be honest.
Well, it's safe to say it's worked out pretty well for both of y'all so far. Plenty of success, and I'm sure more success to come. Carson, we do really appreciate your time. I'll wrap up with this question, then if Brennan has any final thoughts, I'll let him chime in. But Carson, I don't know if you're the kind of guy who has like big goals or sets like expectations, but I want to ask you, you're sixth in points right now, solid start to the year. What are your goals for your first rookie Xfinity Series season?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the guy to set expectations and stuff like that. I just feel like you can really get yourself burnt out or disappointed or discouraged pretty quickly if you do that. Obviously, I feel like looking into the year, before Daytona this year, we ran some part-time races last year, and I felt like we had a shot to win Dover for sure. Kind of gave that one up at the end on the last restart, but I feel like we should be able to win a race this year, if not won a few of them. So the start of the season, it's been pretty rocky for us. Just trying to get used to these tracks and having some bad luck, I guess you could say, and some mistakes on my end. But honestly, to be 6 in points right now, and I feel like I've had not a crappy season, but not a good start to the season is pretty cool. So hopefully we can keep chugging along, and I feel like if we keep putting ourselves in good position like we have been, there's really no reason we can't go win. So I feel like obviously, looking forward, hopefully we win some races and we're going to go race for the championship, right? But at the same time, got to kind of stay on level ground and just look at the stuff, just have some good finishes. I'm not the guy that wants to go for the win or wreck out every week. I feel like I want to try to finish all the laps. And like I said, if we're running up front at the end of these races, like we seem to do pretty often, I feel like there's really no reason why we're not going to go win some races.
Yeah, well, you've been fun to watch so far this season. It was fun getting to know you a bit here on Power Hour. Carson Kvapil, really appreciate your time. Enjoy the next couple weeks off. I think you have a birthday coming up too, right?
Yeah, turned 22 on May 22nd.
Awesome stuff. Well, enjoy that, celebrate that, and we'll see you at Charlotte, man. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Once again, a huge thank you to Carson for stopping by. Good chatting. It was cool to hear you two sort of bond over your late model experience. Like that was fun.
Yeah.
I felt like a fly on the wall listening to two actual race car drivers talk about race car driving. Like I can't personally relate, so it was fascinating to observe.
Yeah, well, I just love late model stock racing, and I know he does too, and so does Dale Earnhardt Jr. And it was just a really fun time in my career, and so I have a lot of respect for the guys that go and do that.
That's awesome. Well, once again, we want to give a shout out to Toxic Waste, Hazardously Sour Candy, for making this show possible. We talked about toxic Texas Motor Speedway earlier. You know what isn't toxic, Brennan? The parasocial relationship we have with our viewers / listeners here on Power Hour. It's the fan questions here to wrap up the show. Got a couple of questions on our last episode from a couple weeks back. Both of them are more pointed at you, Brennan, but you're the race car driver. You got more interesting things to say anyway. So this is probably better content. First up here from Waldwick Person, they ask, Brennan, when flying commercial, do you ever run into any fans at the airport or on the plane?
Yeah, I do sometimes. There are fans that are flying into a lot of these races, and I have been on the plane many times with either people going to the race, whether I was flying from somewhere else or whatever, or people flying back from the race. That happens to when the race is over. And
have you ever been seated next to? Have you ever had a seat next to a fan?
Yeah, I sat next to a fan's wife, and they were in the row on the next row over, or
Okay.
I was in the aisle, or
they weren't quite shoulder to shoulder with you.
We weren't
though,
shoulder to shoulder,
okay.
but we were there, and we talked. And since then, I'm still friends with them today. They come to the race and hang out, and they were flying all the way from Washington State to go to one of the races, and yeah, so I will see them when we go race Portland. And the Xfinity Series goes and race Portland. So yeah, cool. You never know who you run into, and it's fun. Take pictures with fans and stuff like that. It's really cool. I think for me, it's become sort of humbling over the years to just I feel like I'm just a normal guy that just goes and races cars because that's what I love to do. But meeting some of you guys and at the racetrack or wherever I'm at, if I'm at a restaurant, whatever, all that stuff is very, very fun for me. And so I appreciate it very much. And I don't mind if anyone comes up and says, hey, so if you see me and you think it's me, come say, hey, it's totally cool.
I'm trying to think if I've run into any. I think I've run into a couple of race car drivers, like people I know at the airport over the last few years. I remember as a kid my dad and I bumped into Andy Pettit, the baseball pitcher, the lefty at the airport. I thought that was cool. I saw Scottie Pippen in baggage claim at LAX a couple years
That's
ago.
pretty cool.
He was the only guy down in that little basement the same height as me. So he stood out. I was like, I did a double take and I looked down like, that is, you can't mistake it. That
You're
is,
like, whoa, I'm seeing some at eye level.
it was, I don't know how some of these, like, I feel bad for these like NBA players and even some NFL guys. Like they're so big. Like, how do you stay anonymous in a crowd? You just can't. That's got to be such a challenge. But that's awesome. That's some cool stories right there. One more question. Again, this one's for you, Brennan. And last week we talked a lot about Xfinity Series travel. Some of the questions where we also talked about the differences between some of the top, the Hendricks, the Gibbs, the billion-dollar enterprises versus the more blue-collar race teams. And this question I think stemmed from that, from SK29833. Can Brennan explain the leased engine policy in the Xfinity Series? What are the pros and cons?
Yeah, so well, when you lease an engine, depending on what manufacturer you are, like for Chevrolet, there's Hendrick and ECR, so you can kind of lease from either one of those, and they both cost a little bit different in money. Hendrick is obviously a little bit more expensive, but like Toyota, Joe Gibbs has an engine department as well that you can lease engines from if you are Toyota, and Ford is the Roush Yates department. So basically, when you lease an engine, they give you an engine totally ready to go. They come to the shop, they drop it off, and you basically have instructions on how to, install the engine in your car. But pretty much all the guys know how to do that right at this point.
Just eyeball it.
But yeah, and they give you a tuner. So whether you're Hendrick or Roush or Gibbs or ECR, they give you a tuner at the track that race weekend that's there to make sure that everything with the engine is going how it is supposed to go. And so that can be helpful too, to just have that extra person. If you don't have a leased program, generally we are buying engines that were formerly leased that are now sort of out of the system, or what they would deem as like not, like, I guess, lease eligible. They're
worn
like
out.
kinda,
They've
they're
got
worn out. Yeah,
they've got more
they're
miles on them over the
correct.
couple of years.
And so
Sure.
the teams will buy them. Our team with Alpha Prime, we have bought all of our stuff from ECR, and ECR, then, you are still paying to have them sort of maintain them and take care of them and check them after each race, and make sure that nothing's wrong with them. But in doing that, there's sort of like a longevity with those engines. When you own them, you're trying to get the most out of them for the longest. So you give up a lot of power, and a lot of torque is really the biggest thing. So like the non-leased engines that we run on the 44 car every week just don't recover as fast, if that makes sense. Like when I lift that initial, like, oh, get back into the throttle, like it takes my car longer to get up to speed. So for me,
Interesting.
I'm constantly trying to keep it wound up, which is why if you watch me race or come to race, I'm usually running the top or against the wall, because I'm keeping that thing wound up as best I can the whole time. And it's tough because you're racing someone, you get a little loose, you got to lift, right? Like that recovery, man, it's going to take me another lap or so to get back into it. And that's sort of the challenges, but it's a lot more cost effective if you own your own engines. It is, I mean, quite a significantly amount less than leasing an engine every week.
Yeah, because it's like renting versus owning something, and you can get them.
Correct.
It's expensive, I'm sure, to every single week have
Yes.
to get the freshest thing you possibly can.
Yeah, the monetary value on per race is pretty high. In some
What
instances, it's like what our entire sponsor budget for one race is, like one engine. So you just can't afford it. You have to charge double basically for the way that we do it to have a leased engine program. I would say on average, give or take a little bit less, right? I don't want to talk about the real numbers, but it's pretty close to $1 million in the Xfinity Series to have an engine every week. So like a year program, depending, it's roughly, like I said, certain programs are different than others, depending on what manufacturer you are and who you go with, but it's going to be right around that number, probably most likely.
and what what percentage of the Xfinity Series field do you think leases or is on one of those programs, if you had to guess?
Well, right now it's pretty tough. It's pretty much almost everyone. Like I said, we
Wow.
are one of the only teams that um, doesn't have it. Like the 44, the 45, we do not have it. I think Josh Balicki and maybe the 71 sometimes don't have lease engines all of the time. But for the most part, almost everyone right now has it, which is what has made it incredibly difficult.
Damn.
It's what makes me incredibly proud of all my guys, right? Because
Yeah.
I know we're running on a quarter of the budget of most of the other teams, yet I'm sitting in 17th in points. We finished 16th in points last year. I've got two top fives. Like we're in the fight every week with not very much, right? We make the most out of what we have to work with, and I'm very, very, very proud of that. I mean, and we're all working hard. My team, my guys, the people that support me on trying to raise more funding to be in a situation to have engines every single week. And I want to continue to get back into a car where I can win on a regular basis. That's my goal. So I'm fortunate that I have a really great race team. We just don't have all the pieces to the puzzle, but we don't care. We don't care about the circumstances. We prepare and we show up to win every week. And I think that's why we've had such good results.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's thanks to great sponsors, great partners you have, like Toxic Waste,
Yeah.
that you guys are continuing to punch above your weight, as you might say.
Yeah,
But that
for
was actually
sure.
really good. That was the best. Like, I kind of understood how it worked, but that was probably the best explanation of it I've heard yet. So that was a great question and a great answer, I would say, from you, Brennan. Great show. This was a fun, powerful hour of content, if I do say so myself, Brennan.
Yeah.
Do you have any big plans the next couple weeks before Charlotte?
Yeah, man, I'm going on a trip. I'm going
Ooh.
on, I don't know what to call it, a honeymoon or not, but I did just get married in January. And Lindsay and I are going to go to St. Lucia for a few days. Never been there
Oh.
before. I did see that Ryan Blaney went there on his off week. So I'm hoping that,
It's become quite the destination. My wife as well. We went there a few months back, right before
Okay.
Daytona, and it was beautiful. So after the show, if you need any tips
gonna
or
talk to you after the
suggestions,
show.
I'll do my best. We were there about a week. I can't say we're
Okay.
experts, but we did see much of the island. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. So you'll have a great time.
okay, well, I'm looking forward to it. And then, come back and we hit the ground running again, man, right? Charlotte and Nashville and Mexico City coming up. A lot of exciting races coming up. We'll have lots to talk about.
That is for sure. Thank you everyone for watching, for listening. If you have a question for Brennan or me, leave a comment on the YouTube side and we may be able to answer it in our next episode of Power Hour. Thanks again to Carson Kvapil. Thank you to Toxic Waste. We will see you next time on Power Hour. See you everyone.